Welcome to another Introscope video. Today we're going to be going over methods. So a method is basically a set of code that can perform a specific function, or think of it as a behavior that can be invoked by an object. So if you haven't gone over my object video, feel free to go over it because it will be extremely helpful and it will help you understand this video of methods. So as I said before, think of methods as a certain behavior of a class, of an instance of a class. And an example of this could be, let's say I have two objects. They're both songs, and I want to invoke the behavior play. So what I can do is I can invoke this method play by just doing the object name, period, and then the method. So right here it says calling play on this instance will cause sing to play. So it's going to execute anything within this play method. The T2 will then execute the behavior of this method. Something also really important that you need to keep in mind are method signatures, and this is a fancy term that basically means the method's name and the return types. So an example of this could be public static find num. So we have a method called find num, which is the method's name, and then the return type, or the primitive data type inside the parameters, which is an int. So only this section counts inside the method signature. Some types of methods that you need to keep in mind are private methods, and these can only be used within the class that you create. We also have public methods. This one is arguably the most important for intro, and they're methods that other classes can access and invoke. So this will be really important when we get to inheritance later in AP Computer Science. And then last but not least, we have abstract methods. This is not as important, but it will be once you get into AP Com Sci. So these must be overwritten with something called inherited classes. But you guys don't need to worry about this for now. What you do need to know are basic built-in methods, and the first one being system.out.println. So this might be familiar if you checked out my strings and outputs video in the Introscope YouTube channel, and this is basically a built-in method that allows the compiler to print out to the screen whatever you put inside, whatever you concatenate inside the parentheses. And you can concatenate a variety of data types, the most common one being strings, but you also can concatenate on or add other variables such as ints, characters. And then another one you guys aren't familiar with is keyboard reader, and this is extremely useful, and it would be the one that that I would recommend you guys to use when you go into AP Computer Science, because they can be used directly with variables. Now this might not seem to make a lot of sense right now, but I'm just showing an example. So right here, how would you create a keyboard reader object? So what you want to do is you want, much like an object, you would first do keyboard reader and then the name. So in this case it's reader equals new keyboard reader, and then end off with the parentheses. Don't put anything inside the parameters here because it's just not necessary. And then an example of how you would use this, as I said, very easily and effectively with variables could be, for example, a character variable called letters, and then you can directly print this out. Instead of doing system.out.println, you can directly put inside the parameters whatever string you want. So in this case it's enter a letter, and then this is really important. So for characters you would do reader dot read. So this is a common basically how you would invoke this keyboard reader method or object, and then whatever follows it would be the uh, the primitive data type, or if you're doing a string, then you do capital L-I-N-E, so line. Just capitalize the L and then line. Another built-in method, actually family, would be math functions, and this will be very important once you get to the assignments such as the tax assignment or other mathematical functions. And so some of them could be such as math.random, which basically generates a decimal between 0 and 1 inclusive 0. And there's math.power, which generates a number, so the first number inside the parameters here would be the base, and then this would be the exponent, so this would result in a value of 8. You can also put in doubles, so the base 2.1 to the 3.1, that would be approximately 9.97. There's also math.floor, which returns the largest integer value that is less than or equal to a given number. So if I were to say like math.floor and then in parentheses a number such as maybe 6, then that would return the closest value to the largest value that is less than or equal to that number. Same with math.ceiling, which just returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to a given number. Math.square root, so it's sort of like math.power, but it just finds the square root, and then math.round would just round a certain decimal to the nearest integer value. The main method is extremely important, and they're always used in client files or runner files, which you will be getting to later when you program the assignments using Eclipse or JCreator. And this is very important because this is what the compiler needs to start running a program. So when the compiler sees the main method, which is public static void, and then the word main, inside the parameters you want the string and then bracket argument, which is args. Here they put the brackets after the args, but I usually put it in between. We also have scanners, which is very similar to keyboard reader, but it's more complicated. I've actually had some issues with scanners, so I would recommend using keyboard reader. But keyboard reader is a good start. It's what I first learned. So the way it's very similar to keyboard reader, but instead of having an empty parameter, you would put in the words system.in. Make sure you capitalize the S. So this will basically make sure that the scanner is in the system. And how would you tell the compiler that you're going to enter an integer in the next line? That you would do whatever primitive data type it is, capitalize it, and then do the scanner name dot next, and then that primitive data type name. Keep in mind that, like keyboard readers, you would use a capital L and then lowercase I and E, so line for strings. So an example of this could be, as you saw before, scan is the name dot next, and then int. And then usually scanners are used with print lines. So this is a print line right here. I'm 30 years old. So that is all for methods. Make sure that you guys check out our practice page on the Introscope platform to test your knowledge of methods, and then we'll be giving more in-depth information on our guide about methods. So yeah, that is all for today, and we'll see you next time.